Yo, what's up? So, I just wanted to make a quick little vid about this article that came out in the New York Times that has been causing a little bit of a shitstorm on the interwebs. And yeah, it has to do with Christianity, and it throws around the idea that Christianity is a mix between punk and a sort of kind of clamoring or desire for traditionalism, the things that contemporary modernity, that capitalism don't offer. And yeah, I'm sure you can imagine whenever somebody tries to say that Christianity is punk, then they seems like they're trying to glam it up and make it like it's fucking cool and edgy or something like that, right? And if any of you are familiar with the emerging church movement, this is definitely something that I think we could fault some of the pastors and thinkers within that movement of trying to make Christianity look sexy, right? So I'm not really annoyed with like branding, which is really what I got from this idea of trying to say that Christianity is punk. Like, yeah, there's something substantive to it, trying to say that somehow it's alternative, that it's other, that it's a contestation to the current frame of things. I get that. I'm a little bit more lenient than some of the online critics were or have been with that type of rhetoric. But I did want to say this. The thing that is so interesting is one of the things this article talks about is that so many people now are kind of, especially during this coronavirus pandemic, where there's a lot of anxiety and fear, economic insecurity, and then also just fear for self and safety of oneself, but also of others, that there's been a lot of people running to the church, to online church services and things like that. And this article especially talks about, younger people who they're disillusioned, if you will, by what's on offer in capitalism, where people are just objects of exchange, where people's value is reduced to their brand or their ability to sell their labor, or all the typical kind of critiques that you oftentimes hear from capitalism. And so it kind of like walks this fine line, and then it really just falls short ultimately, I think, of something that's important, which is a more material analysis of capitalism or critique of capitalism, which is precisely where figures like Marx come in, right? That's the tradition that is really opened up by the Marxist critique of capitalism. It doesn't just simply look at values, it doesn't just simply look at ideas, but rather it tries to actually look at the mechanisms, the material mechanisms of contemporary capitalist modernity. So the thing is there was one particular line that I wanted to just note where the author talks about how people are retreating, or they're running, let's say, to religion at this time because they are trying to escape from capitalist modernity. And it was that notion of escaping that I thought was so interesting, because this is precisely Marx's critique in when he's talking about how Christianity is, or religion is, an opiate, right? His point isn't simply to shit on Christianity. His point is to highlight that there is something legitimate about the expression of religion, that it is a clamoring for heart in a heartless world, as he says, that there is something about the world, about capitalist modernity. He talks about it with Engels in the Communist Manifesto, where everything that is solid melts into air. All of the values, the social foundations, the systems of reciprocity and exchange, all of these things, capitalism just disperses them, it fractures them, right? And so religion is really kind of like a salvation for a lot of people. It's something that they can hold to, that they can cling to, that they can escape to, that gives them something, some kind of alternative, right? Now the thing is, and then of course Nietzsche also has kind of a similar criticism, and for him this idea of escaping actually is nihilism, right? It's not that nihilism, so many people think that Nietzsche is a nihilist, or that a lot of these like postmodern thinkers are nihilists, but the actual Nietzschean critique is that actually Christianity is nihilism, precisely because it denies the world. It doesn't affirm this world, as my old supervisor Philip Goodchild would say, life, nature, and history. That religion refuses that because it escapes into a world upward, right? Like if you have to value the life of the unborn, if you have to value the life of your neighbor, if you have to value these things simply because you think that God commands it, or simply because you think that humans bear the imago Dei, the mark of the image of God, or something like that, then what you're doing is you're abstracting from life, nature, and history. You're abstracting from the affirmative world, and you're retreating or escaping into some sort of heavenly ideal. And that is true nihilism for Nietzsche. And then for Marx, of course, that's what the opiate is. It's the idea that we live in a world that is soulless, that is heartless, and so what you do is you cling to this substitute, this supposed salvation, rather than confronting and changing it. Now, for Marx, there's kind of a productivity in this, right? There's a productivity because what religion indicates to us is it's a kind of technology, if you will, a technology that opens up to us the source of the problem, that makes us then think, well, wait, what if we could construct a world that wasn't soulless, that wasn't heartless, that didn't require the escape? And that's the problem with this article, is this article doesn't in any way truly speak about that. It does speak about the ills of capitalism. It does speak about the sort of fracturing of society and things like that. But it does so in a very epiphenomenal sense. And it doesn't really allow for a type of maybe like liberation theology critique of capitalism and critique of religion that would then allow religion to be a foray into a productive critique of the capitalist system, to reform it so that we no longer need the discourses of escape or the religions of escape. And that's what I think is really missing. And that's something that we should think about, right? Is that we should really think about, like, what is it that religion does? Is religion bad across the board? No, of course, I don't think so. Is it good across the board? No, of course, I don't think so. I think it's much more of a fraught and kind of ambivalent relationship that we should have with religious expression. And that's it. It's an expression. It's a psychological, it's a human, it's an existential expression of what it means to be living in a world that is fractured, that is torn apart, that is filled with strife, that has conflict, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, I just wanted to share those thoughts. It's an interesting article. I would definitely at least recommend you check it out. I'll post a link to it down in the show notes so you can check it. I know some people on Twitter are like, I'm not even going to link to it, like they're somehow going to protect people from, oh, my eyes, I don't want to see it. But fuck it, man. Engage with it, read it, critique it. Let me know down below if you have any thoughts on this, if you agree with the article, disagree with the article, critiques of Marx, critiques of Nietzsche, and their kind of views on Christianity. So anyway, this is just kind of like one of the little videos that I'm going to start doing every now and then, interspersed between the readings of the Bible. I've got a new one that'll be coming in the next few days as well, where I'm going to try to finish Deuteronomy actually in the next 2 videos, maybe the next 1 video. So like, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. Peace, everybody.